Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential, and today we're taking a closer look at the Janome 5270QDC, just one of a wide range of sewing machines available on our site sewessential.co.uk. At Sew Essential, we pride ourselves on using our expert knowledge to help you find the perfect machine for you, and that's why we've created this video, but we're also always here to support by phone or email too. The 5270 is the last machine in the Janome range before you get to the long arm machines, starting with the Atelier 3, which is also available on our site. It comes with all the features you would expect of a machine at this point in the range, but there are some great bonus features too. So it comes with a bonus pack of feet, taking your feet total to a whopping 11. It comes with a knee lift so that you're able to keep both hands on the fabric and lift the foot, which is great for a plique or free motion embroidery. It comes with 3 magnifiers, which are brilliant if you're sewing dark threads on dark fabric or you're working in the evenings. It has a twin needle button, which makes using a twin needle with decorative stitches so easy. And it also comes with those all-important thread snips, which snip your threads at the touch of a button. And trust me, once you've had that feature, you'll never want to go back. In addition to this, it's got 270 stitches, 12 of which are different styles of buttonhole. It's got 100 letters, numbers and symbols, and the stitches are easy to select, and you can program combinations of stitches too. It's got a start-stop button so that you can sew without using the foot control, a sliding speed control so you can slow your sewing right down, needle up down for precision and accuracy, and a target button so that you can secure your stitches without having to do a reverse stitch. It also comes with a complimentary extension table and hardcover too. I'll pop a link in the corner of the screen so you can take a closer look at the machine and purchase it on our site. We'll have a look at what's in the box later in the video, but now let's take a look at what this wonderful machine can do for you. To thread the machine, we start by winding the bobbin. Place a reel of thread on the spool pin, secure it with a spool cap. You get 2 small ones and 2 larger ones with the machine to work with different sized reels of thread. Take the end of the thread and bring it around the tension disc on top of the machine, and if you pull the thread you should feel some resistance there if it's secured in the tension disc correctly. Push the end of the thread through the hole in the bobbin and then place the bobbin on the bobbin winder and push it to the right so that it clicks into place. Then apply some pressure to the foot control to start winding the bobbin. Once you've completed a few rotations, snip the excess thread off the bobbin and continue to wind. You'll also notice here there's a hole for an additional spool pin, which is so that you can use a twin needle with the machine. To insert the bobbin, slide the black lever across to release the bobbin case cover. Take your bobbin with the thread coming down the left hand side to form a letter P. Place the bobbin in the bobbin case and then bring the thread through the notch at the front of the bobbin case and around the metal thread guide. Draw it up towards the number 1 and ensure that it's come through the notch on the side of the bobbin case. Bring the thread down to the number 2 and draw it across to snip the excess using the thread cutter. Then simply replace the bobbin case. To thread the needle, firstly make sure the foot is in the up position. There's a lever under the arm of the machine. Lift the lever to lift the foot. Also make sure the take-up lever is in the highest position. You can do this by turning the hand wheel, or you can press the needle up down button to bring it up. Take the loose end of the thread and bring it around thread guide number 1 on top of the machine. Follow the arrows to number 2, down the front of the machine to number 3, up and around to number 4 where the take-up lever is, and then bring the thread from right to left and ensure it is secured in the take-up lever. Then bring the thread down the front of the machine. To finish threading the needle, press needle up down twice to ensure the needle's in the highest position and the correct position for using the needle threader. Then bring the thread behind the thread guide here from right to left, and then we're going to bring it behind the thread guide on the needle bar from right to left also. And then we're going to bring it up and over this number 7 here, but we need to make sure that it goes through the metal notch there so that the needle threader will work for us. I'm just going to cut the excess thread off using the thread cutter on the side of the machine. And this is the advanced needle threader from Janome, so it's a better needle threader than you'll find on lower end machines. And if I just draw this lever down, you'll see that the needle threader swings round and passes the thread through the eye of the needle, and we are now ready to sew. I'm just going to take that thread under the foot and to the back of the machine, and there is no need to bring up the bobbin thread on this machine. We're ready to sew. The machine will automatically be set for a straight stitch. To start stitching, just lower the presser foot. But it's worth mentioning here that there is additional presser foot lift on this machine. So if I push the lever in the up direction, you can see I can create a great deal of extra space between the foot and the fabric. And that's just really useful if you're working with thicker or bulkier fabrics. To start sewing, you want to start by securing your seam. You've got the reverse button here. If I hold that down, the machine will sew stitches in the backwards direction. So you can see there I've sewn a few stitches in the backwards direction. If I let go of the button, it will now sew forwards in the usual way. Sometimes though, you might not want to do a reverse stitch, you might not want to double up on your stitches, you might want something neater and more precise, and in that case you can just press the target button here and that will sew a few stitches on the spot to secure the seam. And then the really exciting bit, when you finish sewing your seam, press the scissors button and the machine will automatically cut the threads for you. So all you've got to do is lift your foot and you can remove your fabric from the machine, and it's amazing how much time you'll save and just how much more quick and efficient sewing feels when you've got that feature. Instead of having to pull the fabric off the back of the machine, cut the threads, the machine just automatically does it for you. It's such a great feature. Now another thing I'll show you about the target stitch as well is that if you're sewing a decorative stitch, if you press the target button halfway through a decorative stitch, the machine will know to complete that last full pattern before securing the stitches. So I'll just demonstrate that for you now. I'm just going to choose a decorative stitch. So I'll start sewing that, and midway through I'm going to press the target button. And you can see there, the machine knew to complete that full pattern before securing the stitches. A lovely, unique, really quite unusual feature on the 5270QDC is the twin needle button. And what this means is that once you press that button, the machine will only allow you to select stitches that can be sewn with a twin needle. But not only that, it will reduce the width of those stitches automatically for you. So you haven't got to worry about a decorative stitch being sewn with a twin needle being too wide and your needle hitting the foot and breaking. On other sewing machines, you would have to test that out first. You would have to turn your hand wheel, check the width of the stitch, adjust it down. On the 5270QDC, the machine does all of that for you. So you can get really creative with those decorative stitches using a twin needle in full confidence. One of the other features is the start-stop function. So if I remove the foot control, I've got the option to sew using the start-stop button, which is great if you just want to give your ankle a rest perhaps. So if I press this button here once, it will start sewing. and press it again to stop sewing. And then to control the speed when I'm using the start stop button, I can use the sliding speed control. So I had it on the slowest speed there. If I want to push that right up to the top, I can sew a lot faster. And I can also use the sliding speed control in conjunction with the foot control. So if I plug that back in, if I'm working on something where I want real accuracy, I'm a bit nervous, I want to make sure I take it slowly, I can put the sliding speed control right down to the slowest speed. And even if I put my foot all the way down on the foot control, the machine will only sew at the slowest speed. And that's just useful if you want to use the foot control, but you're just a bit worried you might get a bit carried away and put a bit too much pressure on it. You also have the option on the 5270QDC to finish with the needle in the up position when you stop sewing, or the down position in the fabric when you stop sewing. So currently the machine's finishing with the needle in the up position. To change that, I just switch the machine off. And then when I switch it back on again, I hold down the memory button on the control pad. This takes me into the settings menu, and then I use the mode button to go to the second option in the settings menu, and you can see that up is flashing because that means I've selected for the needle to finish in the up position. If I want to change that to down, I just use the right arrow on the control panel to select down, press memory, and I'm ready to sew. So now when I sew, the needle will finish in the down position. So you can see there the needle's finished in the down position, and this is really useful for when you're doing things like pivoting corners, because now I can lift the foot, pivot the fabric, and I'm confident that nothing's going to move. The needle's secured the fabric, the stitches are in the right place, I can lower the foot, and then I can continue to sew. And then if I want to change it back to the up position, I just follow the same process, go into that settings menu and select up. The machine comes with an incredible 270 stitches, 12 of which are different styles of buttonhole, and it includes 100 different letters, numbers and symbols. And Janome have made it incredibly easy to select the relevant stitches. For the most common utility stitches, they are displayed on the control panel here. So when we're in mode 1, we just press the button to select the relevant stitch. So we're currently in stitch number 1, which is a straight stitch. If I press 7, that will take me to a zigzag stitch, or 9, it will take me to an overcasting stitch. And the machine also tells me which foot to use, and it automatically sets the recommended stitch width and stitch length. Then if I want to override the stitch width or length, I've got the option to do that with the plus and minus buttons here. So if I want to reduce the stitch width, I press the minus button on this top menu here, and I can increase it again. And then if I want to alter the stitch length, it's this menu here. Again, I can just use those plus and minus buttons there to adjust that. Then if I want to sew stitches from one of the other modes, I've got this handy quick reference stitch chart here which attaches to the machine. This comes in the box, so when you purchase the machine from us, you'll get this included. And it displays the different modes and all the stitches available in those modes, so that you've got that lovely quick reference guide there. So if I wanted to select a stitch from mode 3, the first thing I would do is press the mode button until I get to mode 3, and then if I wanted to select stitch number 66, I just type 66 into the control panel, and again the foot has automatically been recommended and the stitch width and length set. I've also got the option with this machine to program combinations of stitches. So if I wanted to sew stitch number 66 followed by stitch number 67, I just press the memory key after each stitch and it programs in that combination for me. And if I use these arrows here, I can go back and see what I've programmed in. And then to clear that, I just press this button here and that takes me back to the beginning. Now another thing I want to show you while we're here as well is that when we're in mode 1, So if I go back to mode 1 and a straight stitch, we use the stitch width adjustment button to select our different needle positions. So if I press the minus button, it will move the needle to the left, and if I press the plus button, it will move the needle to the right. And having lots of different needle positions is so useful for so many different sewing tasks, and we'll talk about that more later in the video. One of my favourite things about this machine is how many feet are included in the box. So you get 11 feet included because you get a bonus quilting pack, which those feet are not only useful for quilting, I use them in my dressmaking all the time. And we'll talk about that more later in the video. But now I just want to show you how easy it is to change the feet on this machine. You just press the black button at the back of the needle bar, and that will release the foot. And then to replace it with an alternative foot, you just position the bar on the top of the foot underneath the groove on the bottom of the needle bar, lower the needle bar, and it will click into place. So I've attached the zipper foot there, and I thought it'd be a nice opportunity to show you the needle positions and the advantage of having the different needle positions, which we talked about earlier in the video. So if I'm sewing some piping, for example, I might want to position my stitches so they're just right. I might think, oh, I could do with them being a little bit closer to the piping, or perhaps a little bit further away, and having those needle positions just gives me that option to sew really accurately, to sew with precision, and to place those stitches exactly where I want them. And obviously the same applies to a zip as well. You might want to move your stitches slightly away from the zip teeth. You might think, oh, they're a bit close and that zip's going to catch. And again, you just use that stitch width button to adjust and move the needle positions when you're in the straight stitch setting. You've also got the option on this machine to adjust your presser foot pressure using the dial here. Generally, you'd want to set it at between 3 and 6 for ordinary fabrics, but you might want to reduce it down for finer fabrics or applique, or increase it for heavier weight fabrics. You've also got the option to adjust the thread tension. There's a dial here that runs from 0 to 7. Generally, for most standard sewing and fabrics and stitches, you're going to be in the middle of the dial somewhere, but there might be occasions where you work with a very fine fabric, for example, and you want to adjust that thread tension, and that's how you do it there. And my top tip for working with different fabrics is just to test on scraps when you adjust your thread tension and just see what results you get before you go on to your real project. On the front of the machine, there's a handy accessory tray which opens up and enables you to store feet and bobbins. This is where you'll find your one-step buttonhole foot when you receive the machine from us. And then that can be removed, and that gives you the option to sew with a free arm. So if you're sewing in the round, if you're sewing something like a cuff or a neckline, you can slide the project over the free arm, and it just makes it easier to sew. You don't run the risk of accidentally sewing through the other side of the cuff or the neckline, because the other side will be underneath here and you'll just be working on the layer you want to be working on. So that's a really useful feature. While we're here, I just want to mention the lovely bright LED light as well. It is better than any of the lights on the machines lower down the range. It's a bright LED light, so that's great again for visibility. With the accessory tray removed, you've got the option to attach the free extension table which comes with the machine. So when you purchase this from us, the extension table comes in the box, and this is a great feature because very often you would have to purchase an extension table separately. It massively increases your work area, so it's great for when you're working on those bigger projects like quilts or coats, because it supports all of that excess fabric and just makes it easier for you to manoeuvre the project as you sew. When you purchase the 5270QDC from us, you also receive a knee lift, and this just slots into the front of the machine here. And what this enables you to do is to lift the foot without removing your hands from the fabric. So you don't have to use the lift on the back of the needle bar here. You can just use your knee to move the foot up and down again. and that enables you to keep both hands on the fabric. So if you're sewing a applique, you just want to make tiny little adjustments as you sew around your shape, or perhaps you're doing free motion embroidery and you want to keep both hands on the fabric, this is a really useful feature. At the back of the machine, you've got the option to drop the feed dogs. Slide the lever across and you'll notice the feed dogs drop beneath the needle plate. This enables you to sew free motion embroidery, where you can move the fabric in any direction as you sew, effectively drawing with the thread to create patterns and pictures on your fabric. So if you're impressed with all the lovely features on this machine, click the link on the screen to visit our website and take a closer look or purchase it. In the box you'll find everything you would expect: a detailed instruction manual, a foot control, spare needles, bobbins, spool caps, spool pins, a cleaning brush, a screwdriver and all the other things I've shown you in the video. But let's take a closer look at those 11 feet that are included. So you'll benefit from a standard foot, a zipper foot, an automatic buttonhole foot, a satin stitch foot, an over edge foot that sews a seam and finishes the edge of the fabric at the same time, an overcasting foot which will do a traditional overlocking stitch, and then you get the bonus pack of feet included too. And the best one that's included in that pack, in my opinion, is the walking foot. These are so useful to have in your sewing kit, and they're really quite expensive to purchase separately. They're great for when you're sewing patchwork and quilting or working with multiple layers of fabric, but I use mine in my dressmaking all the time too, because they're brilliant when you're working with trickier fabrics like slippery fabrics such as crepe de chine or satin, if you're working with stretch fabrics like jersey or knit fabrics, or if you're working with velvet or any of those just less usual, more tricky fabrics. And there's a whole video dedicated to this on our channel, so take a look there if you want more information. There's also a free motion embroidery foot, a darning foot. There's a craft foot, and then there's also a 1/4 inch foot, which again can be used for precision and accuracy in patchwork and quilting, but I actually use mine in my dressmaking all the time too. It's brilliant if you're working with little thin strips of fabric or you need real precision and accuracy. Then there's also a seam guide included, which attaches to the needle plate and helps you to sew lovely straight seams. If you're then looking for even more ways to stretch your sewing skills, we've got a huge range of feet and accessories available to purchase separately for this machine on our site. I'll pop a link in the corner so you can take a look and purchase them there, but you can benefit from things like a ruffler foot, a piping foot, a gathering foot. Just look for the Janome feet and accessories for the category B machines, and if you need any help choosing, don't hesitate to ask us, because that's what we're here for. I've given you a really good overview of the Janome 5270QDC, but if I've left any questions unanswered, don't hesitate to get in touch. We'll be happy to help. All of our machines come with a full manufacturer's warranty, which is 2 years on this machine. So in the unlikely event that you have a problem during that time, just get in touch. Most of the time we're able to resolve any issues over the phone, but if that's not the case, we'll collect the machine and do everything for you. All of our machines are offered at the best price, but if you do see this one cheaper anywhere else, don't hesitate to get in contact and we'll be happy to help. Your machine will be delivered by courier the next working day with a dedicated time slot, so you know exactly when that happy post is going to arrive. I hope you're feeling excited about your new machine, and thanks for watching.